Thought I'd take this opportunity to show how to draft a Bear Paw block. Typically, if you're looking for a Bear Paw block, there will be 4 of them together with a cornerstone in the middle. I'm just doing an individual one. So I've just opened the program, and I'm going to design a block from scratch. Now, if you've already been in somewhere else, you would click on the New Block tab. I want the Easy Draw, and I'm actually making these blocks at 6 inches square, but it can be any size. You can draft it at one size, and then when you go to put it in a quilt, you can size it to whatever you want, an Electric Quilt. So I want my grid to be 3 by 3 or a 9 patch. In my opinion, a Bear Paw block is based on a 9 patch. Now, ideally, my snaps would be 3 by 3, but Electric Quilt won't go that small. So I want something that's divisible by 3. So the smallest number I can get in there that's divisible by 3, and I want it divisible by 3 because my grid is 3 by 3, is 6. So I'm going to put that in there. Now your graph paper may or may not be on. So I do want it on, so I'm going to click that on, and I can set it up. It's set up right now for a 9 patch block, so a 3 by 3 grid, but I can set it to whatever I want. I mean, I could do it as a 6 by 6 grid, but there's really no reason. That just adds confusion to this block. So I'm going to do the 3 by 3. And then the next thing I have on here is my snapping options. There are more of them that aren't showing on the screen, but I want to snap to grid points because that'll make everything stay nice and straight. The tool I'm going to use is the line tool, so I will click on that, and I'm going to just go ahead and divide my block up. I can do short lines if I want to, but there's a seam that goes all the way across right there on my block, so I'm going to put that in. Then I have another one that goes all the way across right there, so I'm going to put that in. Down here, we actually have 4 of our squares in our grid that make up the big square in the Bear Paw block, so nothing more is going to happen in there. On the 2 sides that have the half square triangles, I need to divide that rectangle into 2 squares. And now all I need to do is go back and add my diagonal line for my half square triangles, and my block is drafted. Now, I thought there might be one in the library. I did not find one that was just the one block, but I find sometimes for me, if I don't know what the name of a block is, it's almost faster for me to draft it than it is to go hunt the library. So it's drawn here, and it might be a little bit hard for you to see, but if we go up now to the color tab and click on that, there's our drawing, and it's much easier to see. So you could go out and get actual fabric swatches off of manufacturers' websites or quilt shop websites, or you could go into the library and get different fabrics to see it realistically. You can also scan fabric. I'm just going to use the fabric that's in the palette today, so I'm going to just pick a color for the Bear Paw. Once I have it selected, then I can just click where I want that color, and then I still need a color for my background. So I'm going to just choose a white and click to place it in the spots that I want it. So that is my block drafted. To use it in any quilt, I need to add it to the sketchbook. So I'm just going to click Add to Sketchbook, and I have not created a file yet. So I'm going to say OK, and it's going to ask me to make a file. I'm just playing around, so we'll just say play. Now I want to show you a couple things that can be very helpful when you've drafted a block, and that's under my print options. So I'm going to go up to File, Print, and the first one there is the block. So if I wanted a diagram for my block, I can choose that. And I want you to notice here that I can change what size. It's coming in at the size I drafted it at, but I can do a custom size, and I could have a 9 by 9 block. And then I can choose how I want it printed. Do I want it printed as a stencil, as the outline of an outline drawing, as an applique pattern, or show fabrics. Let's just say show fabrics and then look at the preview. So that's what would print out, and it's printing at actual size since I said 9 inches, so it won't fit on one sheet of paper. I'm going to close that and close this. Another option under the print menu is a foundation pattern. You could foundation piece this if you wanted to, but it's much easier to do without foundation paper, in my opinion. If you like doing templates, so if you had a weird size of block that wasn't coming out to 1/4 inch measurements or 1/8 inch measurements, you might want templates for this. So I can click on the templates, and again I have the option of using my default size, which came in at the size I drafted, or making a custom size. I can decide my seam allowance width. I can decide whether to print them or leave them off. So let's look at the preview on that. So over here I have the key that's telling me where each piece goes. So the patch C goes right there in the big block. Patch A is used only once right here, but patch B, same size triangle, is used for all 8 of these units. So you could use these as templates. Let's close it. Just one more I want to show you, which is the one I tend to use more often, and that's the rotary cutting. So again, I can decide what size block. I'm just going to leave it at the size I'm doing, and what size seam allowance. I can also decide how much rounding I want to allow. This block, if I'm doing a 6-inch block with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I really don't need any rounding at all. But there are blocks where that 1/16 of an inch can make a difference if there's a lot of pieces in it. So let's look at preview. So here we go. We have the key again. Let me just zoom in so you can... I could have named this and then it would have a name on it. Just like in the one with the templates, I have the key. I have a colored picture of my block. And then when we scroll down here, remember A was this piece right here. It's telling me that I need to cut a 2.5 inch strip and from that 2.5 inch strip, a 2.5 inch square, and I need one of those patches. If I scroll on down, then for my triangles, it's telling me I need a 2 7/8 inch strip, then cut a 2 7/8 inch square for that, and cut it in half once on the diagonal. Now that is the measurement you would need to get an unfinished 2.5 inch half square triangle. I usually cut mine a little bit bigger and then trim them down after I make my half square triangle. They just get they're more accurate that way. And finally, my last big patch is the 4.5 inch square. So a 4.5 inch strip, cut a 4.5 inch square. Now the program does not tell you how to put them together, but a lot of times if you've drafted them, then you kind of have an idea how they're going to go together. So in a nutshell, that's my Bear Paw block. I can, again, if I am creating a quilt, which I'm not going to show today, I can size that to whatever I want. I can recolor it, and it's there because I've added it to my sketchbook.